Good afternoon, Parkway family and friends. We're gathered here this afternoon on my back patio. You can see the water there behind me. This is the view that we have when we're at the patio table. It's a little light right now with duck activity, but there are usually ducks and egrets and a number of other wildlife that are out there. Today, as we're coming together for our afternoon devotional, I just want to invite you to go ahead and please check in. Let us know that you were here. You can do that by liking the video or by saying something in the comments. Just do an emoji with a wave or a fist bump and just let folks know that you were here. This past week has been, continues to be crazy in a variety of different ways. In the last 24 hours, you may have already heard that our schools are going to be continued. Their closing is going to be prolonged. They are now going to be closed through May 1st. In addition, there are extensions to the orders for staying at home that are being put into place. I've talked to a lot of people that kind of end up all over the place on the spectrum. I have talked to some families and friends who have lost loved ones and who have been wrestling with just that time away as siblings and as relatives, wondering what their role or their identity is and how that plays out in these times where we cannot be close to one another. I've talked to families and friends who have lost jobs, who have had their hours cut back. It seems like the longer that this goes on, the more prevalent that becomes. And as I am conversing with folks, I am also talking to folks whose jobs are still strong, who are still thriving. There are some folks in parts of the ag industry, certainly our frontline people who are our first responders and in our hospitals. Our counselors and our therapists are still very, very busy. In fact, many of their work levels is escalating. And we continue to pray for all of those who are on the front lines of doing this. I've talked to friends and family who work in the grocery industry, and everybody's in kind of a different place, and we're kind of trying to re-identify ourselves, who we are. As we think through these opportunities and these challenges that present themselves to us, we are remembering that we have roles as employees, sometimes managers and supervisors, sometimes as laborers, sometimes as accountants and bookkeepers. We have these additional roles that are kind of more hyper-focused right now. We have roles of parenting that are always in the forefront for those of us with children and youth. But that parenting role is taking on a new identity as we are also putting on the hats of being teacher and confidant and friend and game player and all of those types of things. Our identities, the way we used to identify ourselves, at least in secular terms, is kind of being turned up on its ear, topsy-turvy. It's in these times that we are seeing that parenting looks differently than it did just a couple of weeks ago. We are seeing that being an employee looks different than what it looked like a couple of weeks ago. To that end, I thought about all the ways that our true identity is shaped and formed. I think about the opening chapters of Genesis that continue to remind us that while everything that was in creation was considered good as God was creating it, it was the God who created us, who breathed life into our nostrils, that gave us this holy proclamation that once we were brought into existence, it was very good. And the fact that the Godhead made us in God's image, that we are made in the image of God, that we are a reflection of that holy divine community is hugely important in my understanding of who I am and where I'm at today. You fast forward into the Psalms and you hear, I think it's Psalm 132, that talks about how God was with us when we were being knit together in our mother's womb, and how God has not just knows the number of our days, but knows the number of hairs that are on our head. And there's this intimacy and this knowledge and this reflection of who we are and knowing whose we are, that we are children of God. There's one particular passage, I'm returning back to Romans 8. I'm starting to sense a theme with my Wednesday devotionals. We may move out of this in the next few weeks, but I want to return back to Romans 8 and read something else for you. This particular text is verse 14 onward through verse 17. And so I invite you to listen to Paul's letter to the church in Rome. For those who are led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive a spirit that makes you a slave again to fear, but you received the spirit of sonship, and by him we cry out, Abba, Father. The Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we are God's children. Now, if we are children, then we are heirs, heirs of God and co-heirs with Christ, if indeed we share in his sufferings, in order that we may also share in his glory. Friends, I read this passage and there's a lot of ways that I could unpack it, but I don't necessarily have the time here today to do that. But one of the ways it resonates with me is a reminder of who I am, that I am a child of God. That is a part of who I am. My image is in the image of God, as is yours. Each of your images is in the image of God. That we are sons and daughters, that we are brothers and sisters in Christ. As we are wrestling with how to live out our other identities, I pray that you will hear God's reassurance that he is with us, that he loves us, that God is there for us in all ways. And to remember that our primary point of our identity is not what we do for a living, not how well we teach our children, not how well we clean the house or get the home repairs done during this time that we have away from one another, but our real image of Christ. That is where our true identity rests. I pray that these words will be a comfort and an assurance to you. I pray that they may mean bring some deep healing to places that may be disconnected right now. I hope that you'll continue to join us for the rest of the week with devotions from Mac and Jody and Valerie. And we hope to see you on Saturday and Sunday as we gather for prayer and worship. Don't forget to drop us a line if you need anything. It was really great seeing y'all. Y'all have a blessed afternoon.